Hi everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the Johns Manville Mechanical Product webinar. My name is Kim Melton, and I'm going to be the moderator for today's presentation. But before we dive into introductions, I do want to go over a few logistics. First off, if you have any questions or concerns throughout the webinar, we're going to address them at the end, and you can submit them to our panel at any point during the presentation via the Q&A feature. We address these questions live at the end of the presentation. Now, if you don't see the Q&A feature to the right of your screen, you'll see a series of icons in the bottom middle of your screen. You'll want to select the icon with the ellipsis on it, and that's going to open a menu with the option for Q&A at the top. Now, if you select that, that should open the dialog box to submit questions, and that's going to be open on the right side of your screen. Now, additionally, we're going to follow the webinar today with a survey, and this is your opportunity to provide us with feedback on how we did today, ask any additional questions you may have about the future topic of the webinar, featured topic of the webinar, or even suggest new topics that you'd like to hear in the future. Now, we are continuously striving to improve and evolve our webinars, so if you have any comments or suggestions as to how we can better accomplish this, maybe even feel like we missed the mark today, we encourage you to fill out the survey and offer us your feedback. We use this feedback directly to improve our webinars and make sure that we're providing the information that has the most value to you. Now, the survey is also part of how we deliver the JM experience to you. And the JM experience is based on 4 pillars of the JM culture. That's people, passion, perform, and protect. And we believe it's critical to make sure that we hear, understand, and respond to your needs in order to deliver the best interaction to you. Now, we offer webinars like this one to help educate the market and be a tool and a resource for you and your business. But we understand that this isn't just a one-way street, and your feedback is a key component to helping us evolve to better meet your needs. Now, we're frequently asked whether or not we send out these presentations upon their conclusion. We don't actually send out the presentation of itself, but we post a recording of it online, and you can watch that at your leisure or even share it with your colleagues. And this helps us ensure that you have the presentation within its full context. So with that, we will dive into some introductions. Joining me today are Lance Bonin and Sean Reynolds. And Lance, if you could start us off with an introduction, that'd be great.
I am Lance Bonin. I am the mechanical portfolio leader for Johns Manville. 19 years in the industry. Product lines covered are fiberglass pipe insulation, PVC fittings, mechanical boards, and have 25 years of experience in the glass and building products industry.
Hi, my name is Sean Reynolds. I've been with Johns Manville for 5 years, and I've been working in the building products industry for 22 years. I cover the Pacific Northwest and am based in Seattle, Washington, working with engineers, distributors, and companies. I'm going to start off today with a brief outline of what we're going to discuss in the webinar. We will begin with an overview of the key components to insulation systems. Next, we will discuss some exciting new products we've added to our offering. We will then go further in depth covering the Johns Manville mechanical product portfolio. We will take a deep dive into chilled water systems, and we will wrap up discussing additional resources that Johns Manville offers. Why do we insulate? The most obvious reason is energy conservation. Insulation inherently limits heat loss or gain within a system. This, in turn, improves process control. Systems will perform more efficiently if they can maintain desired outputs with less demand due to energy conservation. Limiting the emissions of these systems also results in environmental pollution reduction. Another key aspect to mechanical insulation is condensation control. If not controlled, condensation can allow mold and bacteria to grow, damaging building materials such as ceiling tiles, while also creating the potential for safety issues such as slips from pooling water. By reducing condensation and conduction, insulation is a great form of protection against freezing, as well as reducing the chance of fires from contact with hot pipes or overstressed equipment. While most of the reasons given so far relate to thermal qualities, mechanical insulation also carries acoustical benefits, often reducing or mitigating unwanted noise. And lastly, mechanical insulation is a key component for personnel protection. Adequate insulation will help bring surfaces that would otherwise cause severe burns down to the OSHA-approved safe-to-touch temperature of no more than 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So what are some of the key design details for mechanical systems? First, you want to consider ambient temperature and relative humidity conditions surrounding the system. For instance, a system running 350 degree steam in a 75 degree ambient temperature space with low humidity is going to perform much differently than the system running domestic cold water in a 90-degree ambient and high humidity type environment. Surface temperature requirements are also very important. As previously mentioned, the OSHA limitation for safe-to-touch surface temperature is under 140 degrees. Fluid delivery requirements will determine how much heat loss or gain is acceptable over the length of the system, and ultimately the performance required for the equipment. And sometimes overlooked, spacing required between pipes to allow for the proper insulation thicknesses. In the most recently adopted 2015 IECC, which is now being adopted at state levels, the code requires ductwork in exterior and unconditioned spaces in climate zones 5 and above to be insulated with R12 insulation. However, contractors have often had to install 2 or more layers of insulation to achieve R12 performance. Until now. JM has recently added to the product portfolio R12 microlight duct wrap, measuring 4.4 or 4 2/5 inches thick, R12 line acoustic RC duct liner with a 3-inch thickness, and expect isofoam APF board and a 2-inch thickness achieving R13. Pipe insulation. 3 main product lines in the Microlock category: Microlock HP, Microlock HP Ultra, and Microlock HP Plain. These pipe insulations are used for temperature control, acoustical control, condensation, energy efficiency, and are available in varied thicknesses. Microlock HP is the core of the offering with an ASJ jacket. ASJ is short for All Service Jacket, comprised of paper, a reinforcing scrim, and foil. The product is provided with SSL or self-sealing lap for closure, as well as tape strips to connect pipe sections together. Microlock HP Ultra takes the same core fiberglass and utilizes a polyvinyl coated paper jacket, and Microlock HP Plain is provided without a jacket to be used with other jackets such as aluminum or PVC, as well as being a great option for nesting to achieve larger insulation thicknesses. As you can see, the HP and HP Ultra contain recycled content and have a maximum startup temperature of 850 degrees, typically with an operating temperature of 450 degrees or less. The applications vary from commercial to light industrial, and all are produced in line in our factory in Defiance, Ohio. The full Microlock product line is produced on mandrels, rolling the insulation in layers to achieve the desired finished thickness. This offers installers the ability to fillet out small portions of the fiberglass to cover low-profile fittings. The products also come imprinted with the pipe diameter and wall thickness, as well as the size for corresponding PVC fittings on the jacketed material. And as you can see, the contractor in the picture on the left, easily sliding the pipe insulation onto the pipes, able to mark and cut the perpendicular scrim lines that come on our jackets, and allowing for ease of installation, using the SSL to secure it in place, and then depending on the installation and the requirements, coming back and either stapling and covering with mastic or just relying on the SSL. JM's Microlock has been listed and labeled as meeting the code requirements for materials used over combustible pipes and plenums. However, it is not incombustible and should not be used when the code specifically calls for an incombustible material. So let's go over some FAQs. What's the maximum size and thickness availability? Microlock pipe comes available in 1/2-inch to 24-inch iron pipe sizes, and comes in a 1/2-inch to 5-inch wall thicknesses in 1/2-inch increments. Can I paint Microlock? Ultimately, the ASJ jacketed product would be the only one that would actually adhere paint cleanly, but at the same time, it will void the ASTM E84 2550 smoke and fire ratio tests and listings for the product. Ultimately, we encourage a different form of jacket to achieve desired aesthetic colors, and as we'll discuss later, some of those options are available in PVC as well as metal. Can I use it in below ambient systems? Ultimately, this is not for products below zero or systems running below zero, and as there are better closed cell options for those types of systems. But anything between 0 and 450 degrees as an operating temperature is acceptable. Fiberglass boards. The core of the line is the 800 series spin glass, available in a number of different densities and thicknesses, both faced with FSK, foil scrim craft paper, AP or all-purpose paper facing, as well as plain and unfaced. Fabrication board, precipitator board, and precipitator spin glass in the 1000 series spin glass are all specialized products that we'll discuss in just a moment. All of these can be used, again, for temperature control, acoustics, condensation, energy efficiency, and come in varied thicknesses. The 800 series spin glass, again, the core of the line, most frequently specified and utilized is the 814, which is a 3 pound per cubic foot density. It is typically used on the external outside of ducts as well as equipment, and often gets pinned and taped into place. 1000 series spin glass is a 3 pound density, semi-rigid product, great for industrial applications with no facing. The precipitator spin glass is a semi-rigid, slightly flexible industrial equipment insulation. And ultimately, fabrication board available on both 650 and 850 degree options is intended for custom fabrication of pipe and tank wrap. Ultimately, the installation varies depending on the material and the application. As mentioned, the material will likely need to be pinned in place if attaching it to ductwork, and then can be finished off with corresponding tapes. Some FAQs. Can fiberglass mechanical board be painted? Again, similar to the answer when we were discussing marker lock pipe, painting will void the 2550 smoke and fire listing. It will also void the manufacturer's warranty. Why use a 6 pound board in lieu of a 3 pound board? Typically that is going to be for acoustical properties. Our value does not increase significantly with denser products, as it is the air pockets that are being trapped that creates the resistance to energy flow. But the denser boards will cut down on sound waves. Can board insulation be used as acoustical panels? And the answer is yes. Again, the denser the product, the more sound wave saves will be diminished. Now I'm going to hand it back over to Lance to discuss our polyiso foam board.
Sure. So we'll take a little time here to talk about Johns Manville's polyiso foam board. The product is Expect Isofoam APF. This is a rigid polyiso insulation, and polyiso insulation is a closed cell type of insulation. Our product is manufactured with 2 layers of facing, on one on each side. Both are the same. They're a bilaminate facing, so outward facing is a foil, and there is a craft paper facing in towards the insulation itself. And the board is manufactured with no print on either surface. As with all insulations, Expect is good for temperature control and energy efficiency. As previously mentioned, the product is closed cell, so it does inhibit water or moisture intrusion into the insulation itself. And there are a couple nice features with the product around it being a very lightweight product, which helps on its applications, and it has a very high compressive strength. So again, a helpful feature for the product in that high compressive strength helps with durability after installation. So Expect comes in a variety of thicknesses that range from 1 inch to 4 inch, and it can be purchased in 1/2 inch increments. So commonly available sizes: inch, inch and a half, 2 inch, 3 inch, or 4. But products like 2.5 inches or 3 inches, 3.5 inches would be available as well. The R value range is R6 for 1 inch and up to R26 for 4 inch. And those of you that are quick with math can see that when you have additional thickness of polyiso boards, you do pick up some additional R value as well. So a 2-inch board of X-Spect will have an R value of 13, while the R value on 1 inch is only R6. The surface temperature range is -100 below Fahrenheit up to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. And the surface burning characteristics as defined by ASTM E84 are 25 flame spread and 450 smoke development. Compressive strength is quite good at 16 pounds per square inch, and it is used in a number of applications we'll talk about here. So for mechanical insulations, it's typically used on an exterior rooftop duct. The reason for exterior ducts primarily is that often the products for mechanical insulations require a 2550 rating. In this case, the product does not, so it's most often used externally. For OEM applications, though, the product can be used in a variety of different applications, like appliance, HVAC equipment, transportation for refrigerated cars, storage vessels, or maybe rail cars. So can the product be brought inside the building envelope? So the answer to that is it depends. It's typically no. Again, in a mechanical insulation application, often a 2550 ASTM E84 rating is required. And again, that is why the product ends up externally more often than not, because a local code body will potentially make an exception to those 2550 rating codes on an exterior application and allow it to be used outside. Does X-Spect require a weather barrier jacket over it when installed on a rooftop duct? And the answer to that is yes. There is a need for a weather barrier, and there are a number of different jacket styles available, and they're typically also used for sealing up the system for a vapor barrier as well. So now we'll turn the presentation back over to Sean. He's going to talk a little bit about fiberglass boards and blankets, or blankets and wrap.
So the offering on the blanket and wrap side of things, we have our microlight duct wrap available with facing options, and discuss that in a moment. We've got microflex pipe and tank wrap, a denser product intended for large vessels, and then the HTB, or high temperature blanket, 26 spin glass. As with the other products, again, you see temperature control and energy efficiency in there, but just showing some images of the round tanks and vessels, or inside the blankets and pads in that steam line you see there. Again, cutting down on condensation. Our duct wrap is formaldehyde free, and all of these products can also offer a certain amount of acoustical control. Microlight. Microlight duct wrap is currently available with two facings, FSK and PSK, or polyscrim craft. Again, going back and addressing those questions about can it be painted, that's really the birthplace of the white PSK wrap, is for the aesthetic installations where the desire is to have the duct wrap appear white, either to blend in or stick out in a ceiling cavity or installation. Basically you have the two separate facings available. The product is also available in various densities, from 3/4 pound density up to 1.5 pounds. The K values will vary accordingly in regards to those densities, and again, you have varying thicknesses as well. Really, it's intended to go on ductwork, and again, for all those other reasons we discussed of energy conservation and condensation control. Microflex, again, more along the pipe side of things. It's going to have a service temperature of a startup of going up to 850 degrees Fahrenheit. It is one standard density of 2.5 pounds per cubic foot. The K value is right in line with the pipe insulation at a 75-degree ambient installation. It does have some recycled content in it, and really we try to encourage installers to consider this product for even large pipe diameters, not just pipes, or not just vessels and tanks, but really pipe sizes of 20 inches diameter and above are great applications for Microflex. HTB26 spin glass, you see a higher service temperature there. Again, high temperature blankets, 1 pound density. It does have some nice recycled content in there as well. And really this is going to be used by fabricators in blankets and pads. And as you'll see later, it's also got some certifications that open it up to use in marine vessels as well. Some FAQs. What is the difference between installed R value and out of the package R value? Well, duct wrap is really intended to go on ductwork, typically square or rectangular in shape. And if you think about the 4 corners of a rectangle, that duct wrap is always going to experience compression at those corners in order to get a nice quality installation. Therefore, the installed R value assumes a 25% compression of the product to accommodate for those corners. Therefore, you have a higher R value for out of the package versus that lower 25% reduced R value for installed. Do we offer Microflex as a cut-to-length option? We are always willing to consider if the project scope and size makes sense, and that we will consider those options for custom roll lengths. Ultimately, it all depends on what diameter that the product is going on and the overall volume. Marine installations. We have hull board, a board product. Incombustible microlite comes as a blanket, both unfaced like the HTB spin glass, and then ultimately the Microlock HP plane. All of these products carry Coast Guard approval to be used in marine installations. So marine installation is going in everything from commercial and military vessels to use on drilling and rigs and platforms. Again, seeking temperature control, energy efficiency is acoustical control, and most importantly, being incombustible. So the incombustible hull board, again, supplied unfaced. This product is intended to be faced by a certified fabricator if facing is indeed needed. Sometimes it is used raw, especially if it's being sandwiched between panels. A 2.8 pound per cubic foot density and fairly low K value, but most importantly, Coast Guard compliant. Incombustible microlite, again, a blanket rolled product, again needing to be faced by a certified laminator if that's needed, 3/4 pound density, and Coast Guard compliant. Some FAQs on the marine installation. Do marine installations require the Coast Guard certification? Absolutely. It is a very closely watched and regulated installation, so yes, there are certifications needed, and you will find those on our data sheets. Are the binders different than standard fiberglass products? Absolutely. There is a changed binder chemistry that results in the products being incombustible. PVC. We have several lines of the Zeston 2000 in white and color. You see the Zeston 300 in white and color, as well as cut and curl jacketing. PVC jacketing is typically used for abuse resistance. The colors can often be used for color identification, especially in mechanical rooms. This is a vapor barrier, so it is providing condensation control, and the white is UV stable. Zeston 2000. This is our 20 mil offering. It is intended for fittings that will be both in hot water and cold water systems. The service temperature of the PVC itself is 0 to 150 degrees, but that doesn't mean it can't be used on a steam line. It just requires that the insulation be the proper thickness to reduce the temperature by the time it gets to the jacketing of being less than 150 degrees. Available in white and color. The color is only intended to be used indoors as it is not UV stable. Zeston 300 is a 30 mil offering. Again, available in white and color. The white is considered not only high abuse and USDA rated, but also is UV stable and can be used in exterior applications. Cut and curl jacketing, basically to create a complete vapor barrier system, the fittings would need to be glued or welded to a cut and curl jacket if it is a fully jacketed system. And again, that is offered in both 20 and 30 mil and in color in white as well. USDA regulations require that in a food processing facility, they require the 30 mil thickness for that rating. Installation, if the fitting is just being used with a paper facing like ASJ, then the fitting is put on, such as the elbow you see there, and can be tacked together with stainless steel tacks. If it is a completely jacketed system, it will be installed and fully sealed with glue and mastic, as you see the contractor putting the mastic there on the right. JM does offer the full line of accessories for sealing and installing the PVC fittings as well. Some FAQs. How do you determine the right size for the application? Well, we have a number of resources that you can use for that. If a box of microlock pipe is on site, there is a complete PVC sizing chart printed on our microlock, as well as at the end of each piece of pipe insulation, it is labeled for the corresponding PVC fitting. We do also have installation and product selection guides that you can request from your sales representative. Can Zeston PVC products be used outdoors? Yes, but it should only be the white, as it is UV stable. The colors are not UV stable. When using it outside, we encourage the consideration of expansion joints in any long, straight-run systems. And how many color offerings do you provide? Our color offerings are 13, 14 if you include white. For insulating chilled water systems, I'm going to hand it back to Lance.
Okay, so insulating chilled water systems is a special insulation system that has special consideration and has special needs during installation. So we're going to talk about that here. And really the primary consideration is that the system is designed and installed to prevent condensation. And really the risks around allowing condensation to occur is that you could get corrosion of the pipe or equipment that you've insulated. Moisture is needed for mold and fungus growth. So there you are definitely looking to prevent condensation to avoid those two potentials. You can damage your insulation systems, or you can create structural damage. Like Sean mentioned earlier in her presentation, a system that is sweating could cause damage to ceiling tiles or other building products around the system. And regardless of whether the system is fiberglass or some alternative material, a chilled water system that is getting condensation, we are decreasing the thermal performance of that system. So really there are two primary factors that need to be considered as the system is being designed. The first is that you have sufficient insulation thickness to prevent condensation. So while you have a cool pipe in this particular picture, you want to make sure you have enough insulation that you can get the surface temperature of that system above the dew point. And there are a number of factors that go into that, things like air temperature, humidity, those types are the main considerations, but things like could be wind or if it's an outdoor application. And we'll talk about how you'll evaluate those various factors when designing a system in a moment. The second big consideration is you need to make sure the system is tightly sealed. Moisture operates a little bit like heat, where heat travels from a high temperature to a low temperature. Moisture is driven from high moisture content into lower moisture content. And because of that, you do need to create a barrier to prevent that moisture drive from occurring. Typically, that can be done with vapor barriers like FSK jacketing on duct wrap, for instance, or spin glass boards. Could be an ASJ facing or an all-service jacket, like can be found on our microlock pipe insulation or on the spin glass board. And then PVC can be a low perm vapor barrier. And perm rating is how a vapor barrier is evaluated. Typically, you want to have a perm rating below 1, and most JM insulations have a perm rating of 0.02. So quite good at being a vapor barrier. For a high abuse area where there's an opportunity for the vapor barrier to get damaged, some sort of jacketing is recommended, like a PVC jacketing or perhaps a metal jacketing. And mastics are very often used to help seal up the system and any imperfections. And you do want a mastic that has a very good perm rating as well, at least below 1, but you can get them as low as 0.02, similar to the jacketing. So from a design consideration standpoint, and you're trying to decide what thickness of insulation you want to use for your conditions, Johns Manville uses the NEMA 3E Plus program. This program has a number of features, and we can help someone use this program to evaluate their particular system. And that we have a technical hotline that we provide for sharing this type of information. But when you're using the JM NEMA 3E program, you can calculate the insulation thickness for condensation control. You can calculate the amount of heat loss or heat gain in the system. You can calculate what is needed for personnel protection for hot systems or surface temperatures in general. And you can do a little bit more elaborate calculations around where you could give a building owner, what their potential energy savings would be from going, say, from 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick. And you can also calculate carbon emission reductions based on the insulation thickness for a system. So now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Kim, and she's going to talk about additional resources.
Great, thanks, Lance. So I would like to take just a couple minutes here at the end to go through the additional resources that we have for you. First and foremost, we maintain all of our informational resources on an online portal called The Source. And this is where you're going to have free access to our recorded webinars, blogs, product documents, and specifications, training, and even tools that we offer. So we have online training modules regarding HVAC and mechanical insulation that you can use to learn more about our products. These are detailed just like what we've gone through here today, and we can also cover things like installing the products and even research that's been done on fiberglass health and safety. Regarding our blog, we write and curate the content, and this is to make sure that we're not only relying on our own technical experts at JM, but we also want to find information from technical experts throughout the industry to make sure that we're hitting on targeted technical information and the latest news and even scientific details that are critical to successful insulation system design and operation. We do strive to make this content as rich and relevant as possible. We want to make sure that it serves you and gives you the information that you need. There's also a full library of helpful documentation on The Source. This is technical bulletins, white papers, product application guides, etc. Now, we definitely encourage you to browse this section if you're looking for detailed information about our products or even leading industry issues. And in the tools section, you'll find tools like the NEMA 3E Plus tool that Lance just mentioned. And that can, again, it helps make specifying easier and can allow you to make sure that you know that you're installing the right thickness per your application. We also have a Smart Binder app on there that gives you quick access to our data sheets and technical documentation. You can access it online or even download it to your phone if you're needing our data sheets on a regular basis. Also, a recording of today's webinar will be posted on The Source in the next couple of days, and when that's live, we will send you a link for direct access. So if you missed any part of the presentation today or you want to view it a second time, maybe even feel like the content would be relevant to a colleague, you can access it online on demand and watch it at your leisure. Now, for anybody who attended today, you will receive a certificate of completion after the webinar. This will be submitted, you can submit this for professional development hours, and we will send that to you via email. It should be in your inbox by the end of the day on Monday. So with that, we're going to take it into some questions. And the first question I have is for you, Sean, and that is, who can I contact with specific installation questions or information questions about JM products?
Thanks, Kim. Well, in my role, I'm a market development manager, and I have colleagues spread throughout the United States and Canada. So the first place to start would be your local rep, if available. If not, as Kim just mentioned, the source is a great place to go to, and from there you can request presentations or follow-up information, and the appropriate party will get back to you as soon as possible.
Great, thanks, Sean. The next one is for you, Lance, and that is, can you double layer jacketed material to improve R values?
Well, you can certainly double layer material to improve R values. Typically, we wouldn't recommend the inner layer of insulation having a jacket. You do want to make sure that the temperatures that are interacting with the jacketing are kind of below that 140-degree range. So embedded within a double layer system, that jacketing would not be recommended. And then same on a chilled system. Again, the jacketing could be a concern, as you don't want to create an inner vapor barrier and an outer vapor barrier. So certainly you can increase R value with double layered systems, but not recommended to have jacketing on the inner layer.
Great, thank you, Lance. Sean, the next question is coming for you, and that is, why would I choose Microlock HP over Microlock HP Ultra or vice versa?
Typically, that's going to come down to installer preference, as well as if there's any existing installation on a job site or a job, if it's a retrofit or repair. ASJ jacket was the first jacket to be implemented in pipe insulation. Some contractors find it more user-friendly in terms of ease of cut. It is a paper face, and the polypropylene coating on the Ultra can have a little bit of a learning curve in terms of how best to cut it and to work with the product. That said, the polypropylene coating, in its glossy appearance, will look different than the ASJ, but some folks have found that on job sites where there may be a lot of dust and debris, if cleaning of the pipe before exiting the project is necessary, it is a little bit easier to wipe down the polypropylene coating on the HP Ultra.
Great. The next question is for Lance or Sean. Either one of you could answer this. Is FSK jacketing or PSK jacketing more expensive, or are they equal?
Well, pricing for the individual products are, kind of controlled at the local markets, and so, really, specific comments about pricing, I would say, need to go through the local MDM. Sean, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I would just add that the introduction of the poly layer does tend to be a more expensive process than the foil scrimcraft, but ultimate differential in pricing, yes, should be addressed to the local distributor or sales representative.
Great, thank you, Sean. The next question is for you, Lance, and that is, do you have any thoughts about a combination of insulation and electric heat tracing?
That's a fairly common practice for like a fiberglass pipe insulation, where you're trying to prevent the fluid inside of the pipe from going below a certain temperature, or maybe it's freeze protection if you've got a water system. So it's pretty common application. With electrical, probably not as much concern around sizing. If you have something around like a steam heat trace, you might have a sizing consideration where your pipe is one size, you might want a slightly different pipe size to accommodate the extra space. But yeah, very common and done quite often.
Great, thank you, Lance. The next one is again for you, and that is, does painting the PSK jacket violate the ASTM E84 testing?
Yeah, so it would be more accurate to say that it violates Johns Manville's warranty for ASTM 2550. And JM does that because we don't really know what types of paints are used. So in the applications, if someone chooses to paint one of our products, our position is then, we no longer can stand behind the 2550 rating, simply because we don't know what's used. So are there paints, in theory, that might be able to be used that could still maintain a 2550 rating? I suppose it's possible, but from a Johns Manville perspective, it is really around, the claims we make, and then those are, voided.
Excellent. And just to move on to that, or I guess elaborate on that question, is one that says, what type of jacket can be painted, if any?
Well, again, in terms of the 2550 rating, you're testing for flame development or flame spread and smoke development. So as you add types of paints that could be potential fuels, you increase the likelihood that you're not going to be compliant with an ASTM 2550 rating. The only way you would know that for sure is that you'd actually set up testing. You'd go to Intertech or UL, someplace like third-party testing, and you'd test this specific configuration that you want to do. And that way you would know for sure you are in compliance with 2550.
Great, thank you. Sean, the next question is for you, and that is, do you know where the JM products are available in Mexico for one of our attendees from Mexico City?
Unfortunately, I don't offhand, but we do have an account team that handles international sales. So we'll have to loop back to you into that person that asked that question. We can get them that specific information.
Great. I will take a note and follow up with him. And the next question we have is for either one of you, and that is, why does the USDA require 30 mil PVC?
Yeah, Sean, I'll start with that, and then if you want to add anything, go ahead. I mean, the USDA is actually looking for these facilities to be washed down. So the additional thickness allows for the pressure washing and the temperatures that are used in that process to protect the insulation. So the USDA wants a temperature-resistant and durable type of jacketing cover, which the 30 mil PVC meets. Would you add anything to that, Sean?
Just a little, in the sense that the actual process of washdown is fairly abusive to the pipes, and ultimately at that 30 mil thickness, you're getting much less deflection out of the PVC fitting or jacket when a pressure washer stream hits it. So just a little bit thicker, a little bit more sturdy.
Great, thank you. The next one is, what does the RC, inline acoustic RC duct liner, stand for? We'll open that to either one of you.
I'll take that. The RC inline acoustic is for reinforced coating. We actually put proprietary permacoat coating on the face of the liner, as well as when we are sealing the edges in our production process. It makes it a more durable facing that can be cleaned and is highly water resistant.
Great, thank you. The next question, I'm going to give this one to you, Lance, is, does JM offer preformed and or prefabricated fiberglass fittings as opposed to field fabricated miters to match existing pipe insulation?
Yeah, today Johns Manville does not offer a preformed insulation with its PVC fitting. So, or even if it wasn't for a PVC fitting application. So, no.
All right, great. Well, that wraps up our questions for today. So thank you everybody for attending and joining us. We hope you found the information useful and relevant, and this presentation will be available online sometime next week. We'll send you an email for that when we have it posted, and it'll have a link for you where you can watch it directly on demand or forward it to a colleague. Additionally, the survey will pop up as soon as you close out of the webinar today, and we hope that you'll take a couple minutes to fill that out. If you have any questions that you weren't able to ask, or maybe you think of after we've closed out of the presentation, you can submit those directly to us via the survey, and we'll respond to you offline. There were a couple questions we weren't able to address here live. We will reach out to you privately for follow-up. And otherwise, we thank you for your time today and hope you really enjoy the rest of your week.